Hello, welcome to a new segment, Book Recommendations with Susan. This is where I'm going to suggest a whole stack of books for one specific genre, and we're going to go through them quickly so you can just have a lot of book recommendations. It won't go quite as in-depth as our book reviews do, but I just wanted to give you a quick snapshot. Today we're going to be talking about young adult books. So we're going to start out with A Moment of Truth by Casey West. Casey West usually writes modern day contemporary stories about young adults, and I always find them to have a great plot, a sweet story. There's usually, they're mostly romance, but they just go a little bit deeper. So I always enjoy Casey West books, so I suggest you read any of her books. They're really good. And then next up we have When We Collided by Emery Lord. This is a book that tackles some serious subjects such as bipolar disorder and depression, and the way she handles mental illness is a really sensitive way. Definitely make sure you read the author's note at the end of this one for more about that. I love most of Emery Lord's books, so I would definitely suggest any of her books you check out. And then the next one is Warcross by Marie Lu. This book is really awesome, especially if you like video games. It's a little bit of a dystopian / science fiction book. It's about a real life video game. I found this one to be great, and the sequel was wonderful as well, and this cover is beautiful. We know I like to talk about covers. And next up is When Dimple Met Rishi by Santaya Mignon. This one was so good. This is a cute modern day romance story. It's about two Indian American teens who are put together in an arranged marriage type of thing, but the story goes in unexpected directions. So this one was really good. Up next is The Bells by Dionella Clayton. This one is a really novel concept. I really enjoyed the world building in this one. It's about the Bells, which are a group of girls that basically what they are is they're almost like cosmetic surgeons, but this is a fantasy world, and so everybody in this world is just gray, and the Bells have to paint them up and create like color on them and make them beautiful, and this was really good. So I highly suggest this one. The sequel was good as well. So next up is The Naturals by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I really love most of Jennifer Lynn Barnes' books, so I suggest all of them, but this is a really interesting series. It's about a group of kids who have special abilities that are hired by the FBI to solve some cold cases. So a lot of people in this Naturals program have a lot of secrets. It's a lot about solving murders. This one I found really fascinating, and I love this whole series. Next up is Unexpected Everything by Morgan Matson. I love all of Morgan's books, and this one was a really good book about a daughter who is a politician's child. And this is about her summer where she's dog walking, so you can see there's lots of little dogs in there. But I really love this one. It's a fun contemporary YA. And then next up is one of my favorite YA books, Anna and the French Kiss by Stephanie Perkins. This is a book that's set in France, so I always love that because I love reading books about France. And this one is just a really sweet romance set in France, and the food descriptions in here will just make your mouth water. I love this book. It's so sweet and cute. And then we have A Blade So Black by L.L. McKinney. This is an Alice in Wonderland retelling, but it's a fantasy. It's about this woman who just, she fights, and just look at this cover, it's beautiful, but she has to fight with knives, and it's like a very interesting concept because it's kind of set in the real world, but then they will go into Wonderland from a portal, and it's in this world where they have to kill all these monsters, and it's so interesting. The world building is great in this one, and the sequel to this is even better, so the second one is great. Next up, we have another YA contemporary romance, Starry Eyes by Jen Bennett. I love Jen Bennett's books. They remind me a lot of Casey West. They're just usually sweet romances, but they have a lot of heart with them, and I really liked this one. I really like how a lot of their books are set in the summertime, and there's just that, oh, remember when you were 16, 17 years old in the summer? It was like the best time. So this one is so good, and any of Casey West's are good as well. Another good contemporary YA is Hello, Goodbye, and Everything in Between by Jennifer E. Smith. This is about two people who are about to go off to college, and this is them reliving their relationship as they decide whether they need to break up, when they go to college or stay together. So this is really great. It has a lot of flashbacks. They go back and visit different places in their relationship. And this is just a really sweet book. I really enjoyed that. Anything by Jennifer E. Smith is usually really good. Next up, we'll talk about A Question of Homes by Brittany Chavallero. Now, this is actually the 4th book in this series, so I do suggest you start with number 1. But this is such an interesting series. It's one of my favorite detective series, and it's actually about descendants of Sherlock Holmes and John Watson. And there's also some Moriarty descendants in here. These books are so good. They actually get into some pretty serious issues, so they're not all like lighthearted detective stories. And these can get pretty serious, but this series of books is so good. They're completed now, and I think we do have most of them here. The first one's just checked out now, so I thought I'd show you this cover instead. But these books are really good. I just enjoy anything like a retelling of the Sherlock Holmes story. I am all on board with it. So this one was so good. So I highly suggest this series. And next up, we'll talk about The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. This is a story that's set in the High Court of the Fairies. So it's a lot about fairies. It's fantasy. There's a prince. But this is a story about a girl who has to go live in the court of fairies because her parents have been murdered, and it's basically about her trying to figure out her place in the kingdom, who murdered her parents, and trying to find a way to like pull one over on the cruel prince. So this one is really good, and I enjoyed this. I love a good fantasy every once in a while. So that's all the books I have for you today for our young adult category. All of these books are really good, and I really enjoyed them, so I'd suggest you check them out. We'll have them on our special shelf here at the Carnegie. And if you have any really good young adult books that you've enjoyed, put them down here in the comments so we can all see what they are. And stay tuned in the next few weeks for more categories. Thanks for joining me today.